What's up, everybody? Let me know in the chat if you can hear me. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me so I know that we're not dealing with any technical difficulties. All right. Just tweeted it out. Take a minute or so to let people trickle in here. What's everybody drinking? You know the drill. Tonight, we have my favorite beer, Elysian Space Dust IPA. Just a fantastic beer. Connection is unstable. All right. Let me know you can hear me because the connection is unstable. Warning. Drinking water. All right. Water's good. Someone's drinking Fireball. I see you. Are we back? All right. Good. We got a Corona. Good stuff. Hopefully the lag is not happening anymore. All right. So, well, first off, let me start off with this. I wrote a big feature on Rashawn Slater. I'm sure a lot of you have read it already. If you haven't read it, it's in the link below in the description. Get 50% off a athletics subscription if you're not yet subscribed for new subscribers. So click that link and you'll get Rashawn Slater's entire backstory. Talk to two of his high school trainers that he said were his biggest influences. I talked to his dad. I talked to his brother. If you want to know how Rashawn Slater got to the Chargers, go read that piece. Second thing I want to say, just finished up doing a podcast with the guys at Bolts Brazil. It was great. I had an awesome time. Not sure exactly when that's coming out, but go follow those guys on Twitter at Bolts Brazil. They do a great job, and I just think it's really cool that there are Chargers fans all over the globe. I think that's pretty cool. So keep an eye out for that podcast. Go follow those guys on Twitter. Shout out to Bolts Brazil. And yeah, let's get to it. Give me your question. So basically, here's where we're at. It's August 5th. The Chargers are now 7 practices into training camp. I have written a practice report on every single one of those practices. And unlike last Thursday, when we were only a couple practices in, now we've had some time to see this team. They had a padded practice earlier this week. Had to be cut short because they were technically violating NFL rules, but we got to see some one-on-ones. We got to see some padded 11 on 11. So starting to get a better feel for where this team's at, what they have, particularly on the offensive and defensive line. So I feel like we can get a little more in the weeds today than we did last week. And really dive in here. So get those questions in the chat. Everyone crack open a beer, your favorite one. I'm drinking Elysian Space Dust IPA. And let's talk some football. How about that? How do we feel about that? Shout out Daniel Gallen, former Diamondback colleague back in college at Maryland. He says, "Hi, Popper." I say hello to Gallen, a true legend, despite the fact that he is not a fan of Bleachers or Portugal the Man. Still has great music taste. So shout out Gallen. All right, let's get to some football. What do we got? What section am I going to be at on Sunday? I will be in the press box. But if folks actually want to come say hi, like maybe I can tell you that I'm at like a certain place in the stadium and people can come say what's up. If that's something that you guys want to do, you let me know in the chat. Give me Josh Palmer's ceiling. Oh, yeah. That's a tough question. I think Josh Palmer can be like a really, really solid number 2 receiver. I don't really like to put a ceiling on a guy at this stage. I mean, it's still so early, but you asked the question, so I'm answering it. I think that in a scenario where they move on from Mike Williams after this season, I think he can absolutely be a number 2, really good number 2 behind Keenan Allen. All right. I got a Lagunitas IPA Maximus. Love Lagunitas. I love that they're coming out with lots of different IPAs and small batch stuff. They are a fantastic brewery. I don't know where they're located, so if anyone knows, let me know in the chat. Palmer wide receiver 2 next season. We already touched on that. Look at us go. Efficiency, baby. Hey, Pop, do you know what the primary run concept will be for the offense this year, man, gap, or zone? So I actually asked Matt Filer this specifically on Wednesday, and he said that they can do everything. That's what he said. So there's going to be a lot of zone. They're going to have gap scheme plays in there. I think the in San Francisco. I'm getting another connection is unstable. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on with the internet. Bad job by me. You're good now? All right, cool. So what I was saying is Matt Filer said there's going to be, a mix of gap and zone stuff, but they are molding this offense, this run offense around what Kyle Shanahan does in San Francisco with the 49ers. Up until this point, they've done a lot more, wide zone stuff than they have gap scheme, although this year – the anticipation is that they're going to add more gap scheme stuff. So I would expect to see a heavy dose of zone run, both inside and outside. But I think it's going to be a mix, and they're going to try and be versatile offensively, both in the passing game and the run game. Let's keep going. Who is your look who's turning heads at training camp player and why? So this is kind of a deep cut, but Alohi Gilman is making like a lot of plays. And he's not working in with the first team in nickel or base, but he has been the second safety in dime packages. So it's Nasir Adderley and Alohi Gilman playing safety in those 6 DB packages. Chris Harris is playing slot corner, and then Derwin James is moving down to what they call the money position. And that is, he's basically playing like a safety linebacker hybrid role. But Alohi Gilman in those packages, and so they're in those packages in, against when they're going up against the 2-minute offense. He's had pass breakups in both the 2-minute drills against Herbert, the first team offense. And he also had an interception in 11-on-11, non-red zone or 2-minute. But he's making plays. And I think that's really an indication of the level of coaching that you're going to get from the staff. Alohi Gilman was a 6th-round pick, and he was really a non-factor last year. He didn't show up on special teams. He wasn't in the rotation defensively, but he's going to be a key piece of this defense this year, and you're already seeing him making plays. And in that same vein, Mark Webb has looked fantastic. I know he got hurt in Wednesday's practice, but again, last season with the Rams, Brandon Staley and that staff and that front office, Les Snead, Sean McVay went out and found Jordan Fuller in the 6th round. This year, the Chargers, I felt like, needed a safety to have some insurance in case Nas Adderley didn't take that next step. They waited. They took Mark Webb in the 7th round, a guy who maybe didn't have the speed to be on the radar in those earlier rounds, but played in a complex pro-style defense with Kirby Smart, played a bunch of different positions in that defense, and they felt like he could be a factor, and he's making plays too. He's got 2 interceptions in camp, should have had a 3rd interception in Wednesday's practice. It went through his hands. He looks sharp. He looks like he knows what he's doing, which is really a testament to, what he did in college, and also a testament to his studying so far this spring to learn Staley's defense, be able to make plays in this complex scheme early on. So those 2 guys on the defensive side of the ball are 2 standouts so far. Absolutely. Any chance Roundtree takes over as the number 2? I don't think so. I think it's, Justin Jackson and Josh Kelly, I think, are ahead of Roundtree right now. But, part of the reason they took Roundtree where they did is because he has a lot of experience on special teams. He can be a kick returner. He can be a punt cover guy. He can be, a punt special teams guy. He can be a kickoff guy. He can be a kick return guy, not just as a returner, but also as a blocker. So, he can be a core 4 special teamer. And I think that's really where he's going to make his impact as a rookie. Any news on vaccination on the team, improving above 90%? Yeah. They had a huge turnaround from minicamp to training camp. And I don't have an official number for you guys, but they were in that 85% range last week. And so the expectation is that they're probably approaching 90, but it's not really a concern anymore. It's not like they're the Vikings and they're lagging behind or anything like that. The Athletic article ranking offense said Chargers would be top 5 offense. Are you buying it? So that's Sheil Kapadia. Shout out Sheil. He is very bullish on the Chargers this year. And Sheil is an extremely smart football mind. He does excellent work at the Athletic. So do I think that they're capable of being a top 5 offense? Yeah. Thing. I'm sorry, guys, with the connection stuff. It's a bummer. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me, just so I know that the connection is reestablished. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat. All right, cool. So what I was saying was they certainly have the talent to be in that sphere, right? They got the quarterback, right? They certainly have a versatile running back room and talented. They got wide receivers, especially after adding Josh Palmer. That's a really strong group. Jared Cook is a pro's pro and has been catching balls in the NFL and putting up big numbers for decades. Donald Parham has looked really solid as a pass catching option. They found a blocking tight end in Trey McKitty. And then most importantly, they overhauled this offensive line. And if that group can stay healthy, you potentially go from the 31st ranked rushing efficiency team to, middle of the pack type rushing efficiency team, perhaps even better than that. That's going to take some pressure off of Justin Herbert. So do they have the pieces? Yes, but I worry about offensive line depth. And I know anyone that's been reading the practice reports knows that I really like what I'm seeing from the second team offensive line. The biggest runs of camp so far have come from the second group, which is Scott Quisenberry at center, Ryan Hunter at right guard, Tyree St. Louis at left guard, Storm Norton at left tackle, and Trey Pipkins at right tackle. This group has been doing a really good job run blocking. Now, the caveat is no pads yet, but I worry about the offensive line depth still, even though I've seen that from them. So if the offensive line can stay healthy, you're talking about above average to really good unit, maybe even better than that if Rashawn Slater is as good as he's looked and as good as people are saying he's going to be. But I always worry about one injury and what that would do to the offensive line. So if everyone stays healthy, they have a shot to get there. They have the talent to be that type of offense, but there's a lot of moving parts here. You worry about injuries, you worry about how this new scheme is going to be implemented and what that's going to look like. How are they going to be able to execute it? It's the passing offense and the overall philosophy of the offense. It succeeded in New Orleans because you had, one of the smartest quarterbacks of all time in Drew Brees. And this is no knock on Justin Herbert, but he just hasn't seen a lot of NFL football. So what's it going to look like? I have too many questions to say right now that they're the 5th best offense in football. But I think that, their ceiling is certainly that. Getting back to our ceiling question from earlier. From my guy, Josh. All right, let's keep going. How many edge players are on the 53? Does Egbule have a shot? So I just actually went into detail with this with the guys at Bolts Brazil, but he's might be my surprise make the 53-man roster guy. He's looked really great. He wrecked an entire red zone series against the second team offense yesterday. He batted down a pass on first down, third down. He had a sack. He's looked really, really good. And he's a guy with special teams experience who could be a core 4 type player for Darius Swinton, the special teams coordinator. So 47 to 53 on the roster, it's going to be all, what can you do for me on special teams? How many different things can you do for me on special teams? And Egbule is a guy who has the body type, the athleticism to be a core 4 special teamer, to be a punt cover guy, to be a kickoff coverage guy. And then he's showing some flashes as an edge rusher. And the one thing I can say is, Brandon Staley came up as an outside linebackers coach, an edge rusher guy, okay? And so he's going to get the most out of these edge rushers. And Emeka Egbule is a guy who has the athleticism. I think I've just been looking for a little more polish from him, and he hasn't really made that type of impact on defense at all. Now, you wouldn't expect that from a 6th-round pick, obviously, but we're talking about, can he make the 53-man? I think I've seen that growth on the defensive side to put him in contention there. And I think absolutely you could see 5 edge rushers making this roster. Moose says, jalapeno popper, good job on the beer. Thank you, sir. Trying to take it slow. 8.2% here. How was Justin in the 2-minute drill yesterday? Well, the 2-minute drill that he ran on Tuesday was just elite, especially to do it against this defense. Drove him for a touchdown, hit Mike Williams on margins, and connection's going again. Are we back? Let me know. I'm sorry about the connection, guys. I'll try and get figured out for next week. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me. We got a connection issue. Back now. All right, so where I was at was the Tuesday 2-minute drill from Justin Herbert was elite. And he showed that at the end of last season, right? Like he ran, especially like against the Falcons, right? Made some big throws and big moments in 2-minute drill situations. And that's one thing Brandon Staley brought up was like, one thing that appealed to me about this job and about Justin Herbert as a quarterback, as a franchise quarterback, is how good he was in 2-minute situations as a rookie. And he showed that on Tuesday. Yesterday was good. The goal was to get in range for a field goal. He got them down to 30 or inside the 30, and it was a 41-yard field goal. So did a good job. Hit Keenan Allen on a couple big third downs. That connection has picked up where it left off. Keenan is just so good in those situations, third and short when you need to throw in 2-minute. Like he's going to get open. Hit Jared Cook, hit Josh Palmer for a big pass. So I thought it was a successful 2-minute, and that is one of the things that jumped out to Brandon Staley. And so the fact that he's continued that into now his second season in training camp, I think is really positive for him. Because that's when you win and lose games in the NFL, and most of these games are coming down. You guys know this from Phillip Rivers, how many one-score games did he get into in his career? You got to be great in the 2-minute, and he's shown that he's able to operate and command this 2-minute offense and no-huddle offense so far in camp. All right, what else we got? Who makes the 53 at cornerback? All right, so Michael Davis, Asante Samuel Jr., Chris Harris, Brandon Faison. I think Tavon Campbell makes it, and Ryan Smith. Those are the 6 guys that are sort of in the mix right now. Ryan Smith is obviously a gunner cornerback, more of a special teams guy, and he's been hurt, so he hasn't really been able to rotate into the defensive drills, team drills. So I'm really being able to see, like, okay, what exactly are they envisioning for him as in terms of his defense, in terms of as a cornerback. But yeah, those are the 6 guys that have been working in with the first team. And I think 5 is probably where they're going to end up. It could be 6. But obviously, if you go to 6, that would be 10 defensive backs with the 4 safeties, and then you sort of have to find another spot somewhere. In terms of other cornerbacks, John Brannon had a couple interceptions on Wednesday. Dante Vaughn's been playing cornerback and safety. So those are the guys they have on the roster. Why does Mike Williams not run his routes? He does run his routes. How many receivers are we going into the season with? We being the Chargers. I would think 5, maybe 6, if they feel like that 6th guy, Joe Reed, KJ Hill, Austin Prohl, is going to be a key contributor on special teams. Where's Messi going? This is a good question. I would love to see Messi in the EPL, right? Like, he's been in Spain his whole career pretty much. Like, let's see what he can do in the English league. A little more physical. Is he the same player? How sick would it be if Messi scored 30 goals in the EPL? That'd be incredible. Where do you guys think he's going? Where's Messi going? Let me know in the chat. PSG? Oh my God. Does City even have the money? I mean, they always have the money because they're, owned by an actual country. But LAFC, I like that one. PSG makes a lot of sense. I mean, they pretty much overhauled their entire roster this offseason. I don't know if he's going to go to MLS. He's too good to play in MLS. Yeah, that's on. just this. They just spent $100 million on Grealish. And then the Kane, they got Kane too. Didn't they spend a ton of money? Or is that not a fun? PSG would be fun. I don't think MLS. All right, we're talking Chargers though. All right, we had another connection issue, so let me know in the chat if you can still hear me. Just want to shout out Paciano Gomez. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but you are on top of it with the lagging. I appreciate you. All right, let's keep going through these Chargers questions. That's enough football talk. Let's get to some football talk. See what I did there? All right, where are we going? Joey versus Rashawn, break it down. I mean, I wrote it in my practice report, so subscribe to The Athletic and go read it. I give you all the details there, but Joey's been winning plenty. And I don't want to make it seem like Rashawn Slater is like, dominating Joey on every snap. Like I would say, like on aggregate, Joey is still besting Rashawn more often. But that one-on-one rep was impressive. And, so Joey came off the edge. Rashawn very sturdy in his stance and in his set, and just stood Joey up and didn't move an inch. And I have not seen Joey Bosa handled like that in a Chargers practice in my time covering the team. It's early. You still got to see it in games. But my opinion is that the Chargers have found a player, a dude in Rashawn Slater. 100%. How do you feel about Joey Bosa dropping into coverage? I think it's being overblown. I doubt he's going to be in coverage as often as everyone is making out to seem. I think it's something that they want him to be able to do so that they can be more versatile and they can be more multiple. But Joey Bosa got paid 100 and whatever it was, 35 million. I forget what the final total was. He got paid an outrageous amount of money because he's fantastic at sacking quarterbacks. Period. End of story. And that's how they're going to use him. Brandon Staley is going to put players in the position to succeed. And Joey Bosa succeeds when he is getting after the quarterback. And so that is what he's going to be doing for his team. I think dropping into coverage stuff is way overblown and it's going to be infrequent. It's just something they want to have in their arsenal if they want to try and confuse an opposing quarterback. Because guess what? You're setting up your shotgun snap. You're analyzing defense. You see Joey Bosa, you're like, all right, that guy's coming for me because that's on his whole career. You take the snap, he drops into coverage on a third down. All of a sudden, the quarterback's like, what the F is going on here? And that's how you get off the field. So I think it's going to be more of a novelty thing every so often to try and confuse opposing quarterbacks. But, Joey Bosa is a pass rusher, and that's what he's going to be doing. Someone mentioned that the Chargers are practicing special teams much more than the Rams. Do you think there is more special teams work in practice this year? I can't compare it to the Rams because I've never watched Rams practices except for those two joint ones they did in 2019. But what I can tell you is they're doing more special teams this year than they did under Anthony Lynn, and the special teams periods are much more precise, much more. There's much more intention in terms of how they go about their special teams periods. There's much more teaching going on in these special teams periods than there were with George Stewart. I can tell you that with authority. Odds Prohl makes the roster. This is Austin Prohl, wide receiver. Does he have an edge over Reed and Hill right now? I have loved what I've seen from Austin Prohl. I mean, he's looked great. He's made big plays. He's caught 2 touchdowns. Great body control, great hands, precise route runner in those short to intermediate type routes. I have a tough time putting him on the 53-man. He's got to make some big plays over the remainder of training camp and in special teams to give himself a shot. I think he does have an edge over KJ Hill right now. I think Reed offers a little bit more as a special teams player just because he can be a coverage guy. And if you're going to keep 6 wide receivers, you need that 6 wide receiver to be a major contributor on special teams, not just as a returner. But hey, they need a punt returner, and maybe that's what they view Austin Prohl as a reliable punt returner. And a guy who can, play in the slot as a receiver in a pinch. Right now, I would say it's Reed, Prohl, Hill for that 6th receiver slot if they go to 6th receiver, which is not a guarantee. Thoughts on who will be cornerback 3? It's going to be Asante Samuel Jr. when all is said and done, which we knew because they drafted him in the 2nd round. Team is Nasir Adderley. Are they selling out SoFi? Connection again. Where's Paciano with the lagging in the chat? Yeah, Joseph Clark's there first. Shout out Joseph Clark. I'm going to give a shout out to the first person that tells me I'm lagging. And a shout out to the first person that tells me I'm back and you're so happy to see my face again. Who's it going to be? Let me know in the chat if you can hear me so that I don't just fire these takes off myself. Hey, Paciano says it didn't lag there. Fantastic. All right, let's keep rolling through here. Are they selling out SoFi? Listen, I have been pretty consistent with my take on the season ticket sales. The team came out and decided they wanted to go on the record and say, listen, here are where our sales are at. We've blown past, the sales we did on average over our final 20 years in San Diego. I tweeted that out. It blew up. A lot of people were accusing me of being a homer and all sorts of stuff. My take is I want to see the crowd when the games begin, and I'm not going to make any determinations or any judgments until I see it with my own two eyes. So they might be selling season tickets, and there might be a lot of brokers or, entrepreneurs out there buying season tickets and selling them. That's certainly possible. I won't know until I see it with my own two eyes in the stadium. So I'm waiting until then. Any questions I get about the season ticket sales, that's what I'm going to say. I have made no judgments yet, and I'm waiting until I see the crowds in the stadium myself before I can have any sort of informed take on this. So I prefer to talk about football, but if you guys want to talk about season ticket sales, we can definitely do that. All right. Lagunitas is in Petaluma, California. All right. Shout out California beers. Should have traded Mike Williams when he had some value. I disagree. Only thing I'm worried about with Gilman is his coverage. What I'm telling you is that his coverage looks significantly improved. How's Herbert looking? That was a big burp. Ooh. I think Herbert looks great. Yeah. I mean, what's not to like? 6'6", can throw the ball 70 yards on the run, runs a 4.6, can get out of the pocket. He's always going to look good in training camp. Gil Brandt raved about Campbell today in an article. Think he's better than Faison? No, I don't. I think Gil Brandt was at practice last week. Yeah, I'm not super high on Tavon Campbell, but Gil Brandt knows more football than I've forgotten. So take that for what you will. Staley's defensive plan looks solid so far. Is Lombardi's offense going to be able to match it? Luckily, that doesn't really matter because they're not going to be playing against each other. But, this time of year, the defense is always, ahead of the offense. That's just sort of standard operating procedure for NFL training camps. The other thing to remember is that the Chargers have, 4 new starters on the offensive line. They've got a new starting tight end. You have that many new pieces and you're installing a new scheme that's very complex. It's going to take some time for you to find your footing. Defensively, obviously implementing a new scheme, but the personnel has some continuity. Go down the list of guys: Jerry Tillery, Joey Bosa, Justin Jones, Linval Joseph, Chenna Nwosu, Drew Tranquil, Kenneth Murray, Chris Harris, Michael Davis, Nasir Adderley, Derwin James, even Alohi Gilman. All these guys were here last year. So are they learning a new defense? Yes, but the continuity is there. These guys know each other. They've established relationships. And so the communication is going to be a little bit easier than when you have 5 new starters on the field. And I think that's been a factor. Mark Webb, free safety 2, yes, right now. But he's also moving around. He's playing some slot corner or star, as Staley calls it. And he's also playing some money backer or dime backer, however you want to call it, in 6 DB packages and 5 DB packages. So he's going to be moving around a lot. And we have another question right here about that. Will Mark Webb play a dominant role in the defense this season, or will he be a backup until an injury occurs? For now, based on what I've seen, he's in a backup role and absolutely making an impact defensively in his rookie season. Early prediction for week 1 versus Washington football team. I'm not going there. I can't make predictions right now. Tranquil is not unvaxxed. He tweeted that he got vaccinated. Oh, there's guilty as charged coming through right there. He said he got the Johnson & Johnson on Twitter, which is only one shot. Is the kicking battle between Kessman and Vizcaino? No. It's more between Badgley and Vizcaino. I still think Vizcaino is going to win it. But noteworthy in the 2-minute drill the other day when they were trying to drive into field goal, usually took both field goal attempts. Now that could be me reading into something that isn't noteworthy. It could be a situation where they're going to do the same drill again tomorrow, and Vizcaino is going to kick. But it was the incumbents in there with that field goal unit. It was Cole Mazza snapping. It was Ty Long holding, the punter, and it was Michael Badgley kicking, and he made both of the kicks. Acho says we got a top 5 defense, hyperbolic or not. I kind of feel like about the defense as I feel about the offense. Same way. Do they have the talent to be a top 5 defense? Yes. Do they have the coaching and scheme to be a top 5 defense? Yes. But the only way they get there is if they avoid injuries and keep these players in the field, because if Derwin James gets hurt, that's a huge deal. Brandon Staley is relying on Derwin James big time. He is the player that is relaying the calls in the huddle to the defense. He's got the green dot. Now they are cross-training other guys in it. They got Drew Tranquil with the green dot. Kenneth Murray's been doing it a little bit. But listen, like Brandon Staley is pushing the chips in with Derwin James. He's like, this is my guy. And Gus Bradley, let's be real, did the same thing. Gus Bradley was fully aware of how good Derwin James was, and he built the defense around Derwin James, and then he lost him for 2 straight seasons. And that's why I can't sit here and denigrate Gus Bradley and the job he did, because anybody that loses a player of Derwin James's caliber is going to have a hard time putting a really, really good defense on the field. So with the way they're constructed right now and with the scheme they're running, do I think they have a chance to be a top 5 defense? Absolutely. But they got to stay healthy. And if we've learned one thing from the last 2 seasons, right, it's that this team can't find a way to stay healthy. So if they can do that, sure, all of these goals are attainable, but you got to get there and you got to stay healthy. That's what it comes down to. It's really that simple for this team. All right, what else we got? How are special teams looking? Tough to make any real determinations about the special teams units until we see them in pads. We got I think we got 1 or maybe 2 special teams padded unit periods on Monday when they had that padded practice. So we'll see. I think the bigger thing to look at with special teams is, what's going on in the preseason games, because that's when you're full speed. That's when you see guys, okay, how do you perform in a real game setting? So I think, those preseason games are going to go a long way to, determining who makes this roster as, special teams contributors. All right, what else we got? How's your kicking leg, Pop? Keeping her warm just in case. Listen, career long of 45 yards into the wind, too. Now, the only person that witnessed that kick was my little brother, Mike. So I don't really have a lot of evidence for it. I don't have a video, but I did. Into the wind, tough conditions, 45 yards. All right, what else we got? Borquez wrote that Tillery is still flailing. Don't really know what that means. I'm expecting some significant improvement from Jerry Tillery this season. All right. Salutations from Mexico, Diego. Shout out, Diego. I never wanted to leave Mexico when I was down there in Rosarito. I wanted to stay there and eat lobster and surf the rest of my life. But, got bills to pay, unfortunately. Have you ever heard the word poise used outside of football? With our old, yeah. He says, hey, Pop, you should go to 2 sessions a week. Your info is priceless with our Bolts respect from New Zealand. Shout out. We're global. This, can you hear me now? I'm getting a lot of lags. Back. Okay. Shout out Joseph Miranda. I like the people that are telling me I'm back more than the people that are telling me I'm lagging. Although I appreciate all of you. We're global here with Hops on Pop. Global. Thank you. Okay, let's keep going to questions. I got some more time for you guys today. Last week I had to go pick up my girlfriend from work, but now she has her own car. So we can do this forever. Forever. Hours and hours of Chargers content. Okay, Duckworth Bob says, sorry I'm late. Is there any update on Brendan Hymus, the 5th round pick out of Nebraska? The update is that he's playing right guard with the third team offense. And that's all I got for you. So not really in the rotation. Doesn't really seem like he's going to be talking Brendan Hymus here. Doesn't really seem like he's going to be in the rotation really, in terms of like, okay, if there's an injury, who's the guy that's stepping up into guard? When Brian Bulaga was out of practice yesterday, Filer stayed at left guard, and Trey Pipkins came in at right tackle. All right, let's keep going here. I'm really sorry about the lag, guys. I feel bad. I don't know what's going on. I even closed out of my tabs. Maybe I should close out Twitter, see if that helps. Let's keep going. Chances Steven Anderson makes the roster from our good friends at Guilty as Charged. I had him on my 53-man projection from pre-camp, and I'm sticking with that. He's been rotating in with the first team offense. He's been playing some fullback, and he's also been one of the few players who's been a staple on every special teams unit. So I'm leaning towards him making the roster and them keeping 4 tight ends. All right, what else we got? Dark horse UDFA to make the 53. Jared Goldwire, defensive lineman. Pads are on again tomorrow, and then it's padded practice Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for FanFest. I think you guys are going to get – the people that are going to the stadium on Sunday are going to get a really entertaining practice. I think it's going to be, close to a scrimmage. Can Reed even field punts, says Adam Smith. Reed has not been in the punt return rotation. He was more of a kick returner in college. Joint practices with the Niners are August 19th and 20th. Someone says, you're fine just the way you are, Pop, regardless of lag. See, this is the culture I want to build in the stream. These are the types of comments I want in the chat. Let's just love each other, Let's compliment each other. Let's pick each other up. All right? We're Brandon Staley establishing our culture. Our culture is going to be positivity. How do we feel about that? Let me know in the chat. Yeah? Agree? Disagree? All right, let's see. Any more questions? Someone says that Jared Goldwire is on IR. Oh my God, did I miss that? That would be surprising. Are you guys sure? Who reported that? Let me know. I did not see that from anybody of note. If I have not answered your question, get it back in the chat now. I'm all the way at the bottom, so get your questions in. I'll do some rapid fire questions here. Pulling up on 45 minutes, so get those questions in. The vibe's popping. I love that. Which player needs to step up in the next couple weeks? I would say Justin Jackson. He's looked good, but he always looks good in training camp. I think the key for him is staying healthy over the remainder of training camp. and continuing to sort of carve out that role as that number 2 back behind Austin Eckler. Yeah, so Joseph Lopez says a UDFA getting hurt would probably just get released. No. So the thing with IR is if you place a guy on IR now, then he has to be out for the whole season. Typically, if a guy's hurt, you'll just wait until after the 53-man is announced and then place him on IR because then he has the opportunity to come back. So I would be surprised if that's the case. But I usually don't miss anything. You guys know that. But if anybody knows who tweeted that out, I'll take a look at it later. You see Phil playing for any team this season. Listen, the Colts make a lot of sense, but it seems like he's pretty committed to this high school team that he's coaching. So he seems like he wants to, according to Sam Farmer of the LA Times, he would join a team late in the season if they've lost their starting quarterback or something like that. But the Colts obviously are the one that makes sense right now. Mike Davis looking good. Yep. Looks like he deserves that contract that he got. He had a great, and you saw this in the Chargers a highlight video that they put out, but he had a great pass breakup against Mike Williams in the 2-minute drill. Michael Davis and Mike Williams were one-on-one down the sideline. Herbert threw it up as a jump ball, and Davis was in great position. I don't know if he actually got his hand to the ball, but I counted it as a pass breakup because he created the contact that forced Mike Williams to drop the ball. So he's looked great. I don't know. I still don't know if he's like that number 1 corner, but the contract wasn't outrageous, and he's got a lot of room to grow and develop. So he's looked great so far. Feelings on a Kaiser White breakout season. What's a breakout season, right? Aaron Wilson. Okay, he's reputable. I'm gonna look into it. I'll look into that after I get done off this stream, and I'll let you guys know. But yeah, Kaiser. So what's a breakout season, right? Like, I don't think Kaiser is ever going to be like a 100 tackle player. I don't think he's going to be like, a pro ball player from a production standpoint. But can he be a really interesting key piece in this defense as a rotational inside linebacker with his safety linebacker hybrid skill set? Absolutely. He's looked great. The problem with Kaiser has always been injuries and how much playing time can you put on his plate and keep him healthy at the same time. So I think that Brand Staley is very aware of all of this stuff. So if they can keep Kaiser in a role where he's playing limited snaps and they're keeping him healthy, I think that's a perfect scenario for Kaiser. So I don't know if he's going to have like that breakout season, but for people that are, watching this team really closely, it could be a very noticeable part of the defense and their success, certainly. All right, I'm going to do 2 more questions. Now that with you guys all in here, Rashawn Slater feature is in the description. Click the link if you haven't subscribed to The Athletic yet, and you get 50% off. If you do subscribe and haven't read the feature, click the link and read it anyway. Smash that subscribe button. But instead of smashing the subscribe button, click the link in the description. How funny would it be if there wasn't anything below here and I've spent all of these streams just pointing at a blank box? Two more questions. I'm waiting for 2 good ones. Because the beer's done. See that? Okay, connection issue, and we should be okay now. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me, and we'll do these final 2 questions. All right, Paciano Gomez. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. That's my guy. He's there. So by all reports from Corey and from Herbert, offensive coaches, it seems like they're gelling well. I think a good indication of how their communication is, you can see it from the 2-minute drill, right? That's a hectic scenario, hectic environment. You're doing, you're running a no huddle offense. I think, you can see that there's that communication all across the offense, and that obviously starts with the center and the quarterback. No issues with exchanges or anything like that. And Corey Linsley himself said that the communication, not just on the field, but off the field in terms of how they're talking through stuff is really great. There's no doubt in my mind that Corey Linsley is going to be a tremendous resource for Justin Herbert. There's a reason why they went out and made him the priority in free agency and paid him as much as they did. As I've said multiple times on here, a good center, especially one as smart as Corey Linsley, is a force multiplier. So I think that relationship is developing quite nicely early on here in training camp. What's your favorite Lane 8 song? I don't want to mess your name up, but Milad Pesian? He's always in my mentions about house music. My favorite Lane 8 song is either Oh Miles, which is a recent one, or Coming Back to You, which is off Little by Little, which was the album he released before Brightest Lights. I'm not going to count that one, but I just wanted to answer it. One more question. One more. Okay, good one from Adam Smith. Would Murray be on the field on 3rd and long or one of the other inside linebackers due to their coverage skills? My expectation is that it's going to be Kenneth Murray in those 3rd and long situations. They're typically going to be in dime packages in those situations. So you'd have 4 defensive linemen, you'd have 6 defensive backs, and then it would be Kenneth Murray as the linebacker on the field. But we'll see if that comes to fruition. Obviously, Drew Tranquill has better coverage skills, but I think Kenneth Murray is just a more dangerous player. Opposing offenses will be more scared to see Kenneth Murray on the field than Drew Tranquill. And that's not anything against Drew Tranquill. Kenneth Murray is just a freak of nature. Drew said this himself the other day. That guy he's 250 pounds. He can run a sub 4.5 40. He's got a lot of room to grow, and he must grow in terms of his coverage skills, right? But just his playmaking ability, I think, is going to be what gets him on the field in those situations. All right, let's 2 more. I think we're going to wrap this up here. I want to say thank you to everyone that joined. If you don't subscribe to The Athletic, click the link below to my Rashawn Slater feature about his life in high school and how he turned himself into a Division I prospect, how he got himself to Northwestern, how he became a first-round pick. It's all in that link below. If you don't subscribe, click the link, and you'll get 50% off a new subscription. If you do subscribe and haven't read that story, I would really appreciate it if you read it. I spent a lot of time on it, and I promise you will know more about Rashawn Slater after you read it than you know right now. Otherwise, keep plugged into Twitter for the training camp updates. I'll be at practice tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And as always, I will have a training camp report for you tomorrow after practice, Saturday, and then, of course, Sunday for the Fan Fest at SoFi Stadium. All 3 of these practices will be padded, so there'll be plenty of interesting stuff to take away from one-on-ones, from 7-on-7, from 11-on-11. So make sure you are subscribed to The Athletic to read all of my content, including my daily training camp reports. Otherwise, have a great evening. Enjoy your second beer, because I'm going to go have one right now. And we'll be doing these every Thursday at 6 p.m. until the start of the regular season. And I'm going to figure out what we're doing. So I hope to see all you guys back here next Thursday. And as always, again, hit me up on Twitter. I respond to lots of people. So if you ask good questions,